Hello, ladies. I hope you're doing well. Welcome to Homemaking Radio. I hope you get a few things done while you listen today. I don't have a teacup to show you because I didn't get the plaid teacup I had my eye on. It would have really gone well with this shirt. But I do want to welcome you all, and I'm so honored that you came to listen today. I love this era that we're living in because you don't have to go somewhere with a whole bunch of notebooks and a program, and you can do it at your own leisure at home, and then you don't have to leave your home or your children in order to listen. And the idea for this is just that you would need to listen to something as you did things like we did in the olden days. You know, we turned the radio on when we were washing dishes and enjoyed the music. And today, if you have something you need to do that's rather repetitive and you'd like to go do that, then I would suggest you do that. If, however, you are not dressed, then that is the first thing we do, is prepare ourselves physically and emotionally. And getting dressed is also a way of settling your mind and getting some clarity and focusing on what you're going to be doing today. It also helps your mood. And there are other reasons to get dressed. I thought of one the other day that I wrote down somewhere, scribbled it hastily, and totally left my mind. But basically, it helps you to focus. It helps you to give respect and dignity to the home and to yourself in what you are doing. It gives you a purpose. It says, what I'm doing at home is important enough for me to dress up and to give it some extra care and extra attention. And your children will appreciate it too, and they will develop the habit of dressing well because they have seen you do it. Now, if you were alone, I would still suggest you do it. Do it for just the experience of feeling that you have value and that your home has value. It helps you prepare you in so many ways. One of the things I thought of today that helped me, that I would like to pass on to you, is to iron your apron. We have these bib aprons we wear because they cover everything so nicely. And yes, we can get them dry on the line or out of the dryer, but they're still kind of wrinkled, and it just gives it a little more professional touch and feeling wearing them when I don't know if you've seen the ties on them, they're all wrinkled and twisted up. It'd be nice just to iron that and see if that makes a difference in how you approach your work. Now, appearance includes, in my opinion, the mood lifting exercises and stretches that I have suggested that you do. 5-minute chair exercises. You can look those up on the internet and find a video to follow and just do 5 minutes. As a matter of fact, I am participating in one of my grandchildren's homeschool, about 3 of them in homeschool, and I have made a list of things that when I think of these things, I just write them down. My notebook is very messy, but theirs is very neat because they've got time to copy everything and to arrange their notebooks. And one of the things that they like the best is the exercises. I just do some chair exercises with them, and what a difference it makes in freeing up their minds and unpinching those muscles and tightness in their shoulders and their neck. And also, I have been listening to a health practitioner, Dr. Eric Berg, and I will put a link to some of the things that he says. He does include some exercise there on how you can take care of your health without chemicals and without pharmaceuticals, and how you can look after yourself. And exercise was one of the things that was mentioned in one of his videos. I want to be sure that I can find that for you. But some of the exercises that looked kind of difficult, I was able to do. And I am getting elderly, so it did take me a while, but inch by inch I was able to do them. Now, one of the reasons for exercise and including it in your appearance is that if you'll get dressed up and put your hair together and your skincare together, the exercise will warm up your skin and it'll make your face glow, and if you wear makeup, it'll set your makeup. And also that it's such a mood lifter, but the exercises The problem with stiffness is if you allow yourself, if you don't exercise and you allow yourself, and it's not just, they're not really, they shouldn't be called exercises, they're mood lifters. They're just things like rolling your shoulders and stretching your arms back, and very, very easy, but you can feel the difference. That part of the problem is, as no matter, even if you're in your teens, you're still only 15 or 16, or you're in your 20s, if you allow yourself to get stiff, you'll have health problems ahead of you. And if you're elderly, like I am, and you allow yourself to get stiff where you can't move, where you groan when you get out of bed, and you can't hardly get into bed, and you can't get up from your chair, and then eventually someone is going to have to look after you, or you're going to be sent somewhere where a whole staff can look after you. If you want to remain able, and if you want to remain relevant, and if you want to be useful, and if you want to enjoy life, and you want to stay home, then just take care of your health and do those stretch exercises, the 5-minute chair exercises, and mix them up a little bit. The one that I like has 3 on her site. There aren't enough, in my opinion, on the web, but mix them up and keep yourself limber, because if you get to where you're a burden on someone, they'll just cart you away to some place that other people can take care of you. So just take care of yourself, keep yourself moving, keep your body moving, and encourage other people in your family to do so. Now, I want to make sure that you're happy with what you look like in the daytime for your home, and find ways to make the home exciting and interesting. And for that reason, that's why I shift things around in my home, and I'll move cushions around and put different colors in different rooms. And I depend on things like blankets and cushions and scarves and clothing and accessories and boxes and things that have color and shape. And I'll switch them around from room to room and give all the rooms a different appearance. But to give the house a sense of, I guess, a variety, one of the things that we are going to be doing here is, because the descendants are coming, when the pass is melted off and there's no snow on the pass and they come over, I am going to, because no one has been able to travel or go on a holiday or stay at a place, any kind of facility recently, because of the recent situation, because of the war. Remember, I try not to mention the war while I'm here. Is to create, they are going to be coming to see me, and I am creating a country inn for them to stay in for a few days. And so I have a plan and a program, and I'm arranging the rooms so that they'll feel like they're in an inn, and I will name it, and I'll have a little brochure by each of the beds telling them something about the history of the inn, or nearby sites that they can see and things to do here. And then we'll also have special food at the dining room table, and I will put that in the brochure that's beside their bed, that there will be, when lunch will be served at the round dining table, or when tea will be served at the little table in the lounge. And we will just enjoy this so much. And then I will have some other things going on, maybe some other things that I will have to reveal to you later. I don't want to let it all out yet, because they might be listening. And so we are going to have a wonderful time. We're going to have music, we're going to have art, and they're all going to have an art class, and we're going to talk about other things too, maybe write. So that gives my home, that gives me motivation. It gives my home a different atmosphere, just even thinking about it. So if you've got grown people at home, grown children at home, you can do this for you too. Like, why not, let's have a such and such type of day. And because I believe that the home is like a castle, and those of you at home with your families, this is really a wonderful place. And it is not like anything in the commercial world. It is not like, those who are in it is like, you know what it's like when people peek into a home where you have people there your family, and you have your customs, and you have your inside jokes, and you have your own possessions that mean something to you. It's like similar to when the Bible says that angels that they peek in at the Christian's life and are envious. And I'm not sure exactly that's what it said, but that the angels don't have the same privileges as the Christians, as those who are in Christ have. And that's what it is for the home. The people out there don't have the same privilege as your home. And those of you who have chosen to be home are privileged. And you have chosen that privilege. You don't have to be run by the world. You can choose that privilege of the home where you can decide where to put things, when to do things, what to have, what kind of atmosphere you want. And so one of the things that I like to do is put yourself on an improvement course. And that would mean schedule whatever you like to do and keep the appointments. And of course, the improvement course can include working on a part of the house that really needs to be cleaned or sorted, or boxes of things that need to be gone through. And we all have one of those drawers or one of those rooms that things get put in and we want to get at. And just give yourself these 10-minute mood lifters, and that means 10 minutes of putting something away and how it can lift your mood. Several people have reminded me of Fly Lady, and that's a very good program. I don't like getting it in my email, but I like to go to her site and find out what her schedule is and follow it. I'm not quite ready to do that yet. I've got to get one more room cleaned up so that it can be qualified as a bedroom instead of a storage room. And I want to have that so that when her schedule comes up and it's to clean a bedroom, that I can actually go in there and do that. And I wanted to remind you also of that book I had mentioned several times called The Dame of Sark. Remember, she was in captivity on the Isle of Sark, and how she was like the mayor of Sark, and she chose to stay there during the war, and how she rode her bike around and checked on everybody, and how she grew potatoes and carried them around in her apron pocket and gave them to people. And I could not find that book. I had given one away, and then the other one I cannot find yet. And then somebody reminded me that is on the web at archive.com, and you can actually read it, Dame of Sark. Now, there are some things in there that are not for children, because it's quite scary, some things, so you wouldn't want to read that. But it might be interesting for you to read, to see her spirit and her determination and her focus. So interesting how she was determined that they were going to take care of the people on this island, and just all the interesting things that she did. She had spunk, and it will give you some encouragement. Now, I would like to also say that there is also another book. It's on Gutenberg Press, and I'm going to read it to you because I had talked about young ladies and their behavior and how to be polite and, just general etiquette, general ordinary etiquette, not really itemized things like where to put the fork or spoon or anything like that. I'm not really interested in that, but just general behavior. And I found one for the young man in the 1800s and was quite amused by it. So I want to read a little bit of that to you today, and that will give you time maybe to clean one room or get your kitchen done. Now, in Sidetracked Home Executives, which is what Fly Lady has adapted, that's what she's all about. Is she's actually part of the original. She's taken that book, Sidetracked Home Executives, and turned it into a system which she uses, and she calls herself Fly Lady online. But I was alive when the original Sidetracked Home Executive Sisters came into the town that I was living in. And I saw them on an interview on a morning television show, and they were conducting a course at a church somewhere, and they started out with a card file on how for women who had trouble keeping their home up because they would get distracted. And we all do that, don't we? And so I want to get, where I can follow it, although Fly Lady has changed it a little bit for the better. I just wanted you to know about that if you are having trouble and you need to be. Some people respond well to a card file and a schedule. Some people do really well that way. Other people, not so much, don't like to do that. But I just wanted you to know, not everyone is the same. So I want to go on now to reducing anxiety in the home. This is really important because for some reason, the place where we want to escape to and be at so that the world won't bother us, so people won't bother us, and all the restrictions of the commercial world won't apply to us, and we get tired of being told, stand over there and move over here and get in line and next and, take a number. And at home, we don't have to do that. Although I can remember when we were kids growing up in the wilderness, in a log house our father had built us, we were isolated a lot, and it was hard to get to town, and we used to play store and play bank and play post office. It was a great source of play for us, but in this day and age, it's not much fun, is it, to always be standing in line. And so to keep this anxiety out of the home, one of the things that this Dr. Eric Berg suggested was to be careful of the amount of media news that we take in, because it can get in your head and just swirl around and round and round until you're so distracted and you cannot be happy, and you cannot have that. One of the things that helped me the most was these 5-minute exercises, because it released a sense of well-being, and it might do that for you. I know it's hard to get started if you don't have the motivation, or maybe you'd have a friend that would do it with you, but I find it nice to do it online. And as I said, embark on a system of self-improvement by making appointments with yourself and then doing them. Go back to your exercise room or whatever room you keep your exercise stuff in, and your weights and things like that, and turn on your 5-minute exercise and follow along on the video. And then it's time for maybe a cleanup in the kitchen, and you go in there, and if you keep a list, then you can just happily put the big X in it. Some people would rather do that. And if you get a little bit confused or disoriented, or you can't seem to settle down, then those lists are really nice, because you can just do the next thing on the list, whether or not it makes sense to you, whether or not you're in the mood. And that was one thing that Sidetracked Home executives said when they made their introductory speech, was that we want to make a list because we tend to be emotional, and if we don't feel like doing it, we'll skip it, and that's why we get in, everything piles up so bad. So one of the marks of self-control is to do something whether or not you feel like it. And so having a list is helpful, because if you get to where you are rather disoriented or you cannot seem to get going that day, then you just make a list, and then you do everything on the list, whether or not it really makes any sense. And of course, we have to use good judgment about when it's time to prepare a meal and when it's time to wash some clothing. And I know some people have to maneuver their housework around someone who is sleeping, someone who's on a shift, and they cannot make noise in the daytime much. And so they have learned to adjust into when they can turn on a machine, and just all these different things. And everybody has a different schedule, a different type of home. Some homes need more care than others, some not so much. And so you have to determine what would be necessary. And I think one of the most important things for homemaking is the sanitizing. Make sure everything is sanitary. That means that the wet areas like the laundry room, the kitchen, and the bathroom would be taken care of every single day. You don't wait for a work day, and while you're in that room, you clean it up. And that is very handy. Now, you don't just walk into the laundry room and put some laundry in there in the basket. You look around and straighten something out, remove something, wipe something down, and this way you become an automatic homemaker, and you don't have to wait for a house cleaning day. You never walk through the house aimlessly without a motivation or a reason. You might walk down the hall to get something, but you look around. Your eyes are never still. You look around to see what needs to be corrected, changed, put into place. So to reduce anxiety in the home, I got the idea that you must speak, look, listen, taste, smell, and do things that make you happy and have a sense of calmness. And so that means you might have to eliminate the media, and maybe even now social media, that's just, usually conversation with your kids or grandkids. That might not be so bad, but even they and your friends might be sending you things to go look at that are very disturbing, and that talk about the latest problem in the nation. And you notice with these news medias, they're not ever going to let you alone. They're not going to ever give you anything calm. They are never going to give you any hope, and they're never going to solve anything, because they have to keep you listening. They have to keep you watching. So to reduce personal anxiety in the home, I think is really important. And the first thing would be to get dressed. The next thing, do some of those exercises, because some of the anxiety is physical. It really is, and it does release that feeling of tension. And just try it. I didn't always believe it either. I always thought it was, we'd have to throw off these mental thoughts and throw off all this anxiety, try to do it that way. But the exercise truly does make a difference. So speak things that are calming, look at things that are calming, listen to things that are calming, taste and smell, create aromas in your home that are calming and that help the family to be calm. And think about the children, if you have children at home, how they need to have an atmosphere of calm in the home too. Not too much noise, not too much not too many things that are upsetting, and just being calm. Now, happiness is, people say, people, they can't find happiness, but look, one of the things I think is people are often afraid of it. Happiness, they compare it to, they're thinking of it as like when you're at a party and they're partying, and they know that when you're partying and celebrating, that you tend to forget all your worries and all your cares. And people are afraid of being too happy because they think that it might make them irresponsible, or that it will cause them to lose a grasp of reality, or that they'll lose their awareness of what could be wrong, and they'll lose their alertness for danger, or that happiness, because it is so powerful, the feeling of happiness is so powerful that it will relax them so much that they will fail to do their responsibilities. So people kind of avoid it. And yet, I had heard that in some countries for little children there are called schools of happiness. And I think you could start one, especially if you're a mother or grandmother. You could start a little notebook and start a little school of happiness for your children, and use the 5 senses, and every day do one activity from the 5 senses, because it's so important to develop happiness. Some people just are born in tension and grow up with tension, but I think that God wants us to be happy. And as Pollyanna said in the book Pollyanna, there were 1,000 happy texts in the Bible, and yet most people want to go around living in a cloud of gloom and doom, and I don't think that that's healthy at all. So keep a song in your heart and a story in your head. Whenever it gets to be where it doesn't seem like there's anything to look forward to, and everything seems kind of bleak, then I remember my friend, that author, Miss Lily of the Valley, and her story of her pioneer story. And I think about Allison on the Oregon Trail and wonder what she's going to do next, and what her first house is going to be like, and and what her family will be like, and who she will marry, and what kind of adventures they will have. And my mind just goes there, and I think about that all the time. Now, Mr. S, he just keeps a song in his heart, and you can hear him humming it, and that's how he chases away any kind of impending gloom. And not everybody can do that, though. I think he was probably taught that as a child. I never could figure out how that would work, except when we were children, we had some of the hymn books from the church at home, and we would sing those. We'd sing all those verses while we were doing a chore, like, in the garden, or cleaning some kind of vegetable, or, walking home on the home road, or just anything like carrying water. We would sing some of these verses, and they seemed to make the time go, and we would not know when it was over. And so learn some of these hymns by heart, and I often have posted them here for you so that you could listen while you work and eventually sing along with them. And that's how you learn to sing, is singing along with people. You don't have to read music. You don't have to know a lot about it. You just sing along. But many people are afraid of losing their grip of reality if they're too happy. But I think it's very important for your health to be happy. And if you find that you just don't have it in you to be happy, and you just have anxiety is just part of your life, at least smile, because that releases some of the anxiety. Now, there's a Bible verse in Psalms, it's part of Psalms 30, that says, "Weeping may tarry for the night, but joy comes in the morning." And some of you who are more weary towards the afternoon, and you tend to get depressed, or you tend to get kind of weepy in the afternoon, just remember, there's a different atmosphere, climate, light, everything in the afternoon than in the morning. And then when the morning comes, it seems like everything is wonderful and fresh and new, and then it just goes off after that. So weeping may tarry in the night, but joy comes in the morning. Sometimes, when we put our children to bed, they didn't want to go to bed, and it was so late, and we all needed to have some rest, and they would cry because they couldn't get something to stick together, some Lego to stick together or something. But in the morning, it was solved. They could do it in the morning. So there's something that happens to our bodies too in the afternoon. So if you have anxiety in the afternoon, get a bath, get dressed in your warmest night clothes, get into bed, read a magazine, and fall asleep. And read the kind of, I've saved all my old Victoria magazines from the first one was 1987, and I've saved those. And I like to go through those. Those calm me. They don't have anything in it that has any kind of social or political demand on anybody. They were just pictures mainly, and recipes for tea parties. So, and I liked them. So that is one thing that I do. Now I'm going to read to you out of this book. Is from 1800s, called The Gentleman's Guide to Etiquette and Manual of Politeness. And I thought it was only fair, because I've often talked about girls and women and homeschooling, and I've recommended some of the study books. So now I would like to do something for the young men. And you should know them too. So this is I really don't like reading it off of here, but and I'd like to have it in a book form. And apparently you can print it off. Okay, listen to the introduction. This was written in, I'm trying to find the date here. It was, goodness, I believe it was 18, well, I don't see the date, but it was 1800. I don't know why I can't find the date on it. Okay, so the Gentleman's Book of Etiquette and Manual of Politeness um, a guide, a complete guide, being a complete guide for a gentleman's conduct in all his relations towards society. The Gentleman's Book of Etiquette and Manual of Politeness. Rules for the etiquette to be observed in the street, at the table, in the evening party, and in the morning, with full directions for polite correspondence, dress, conversation, manly exercises, and accomplishments. 1860. Found it. Man was not intended to live like a bear or a hermit, apart from others of his own nature, and philosophy and reason will each agree with me that man was born for sociability and finds his true delight in society. Now, of course, not everyone is the same, as some people would rather be quiet and be left alone, and they do produce a lot more. I have known people who are cabinet builders or farmers that just prefer to do it by themselves. That's the society enough for them. Society is a word capable of many meanings, and used here in each and all of them. Society, the world at large, the little clique to which he is bound by early ties, the companionship of friends and relatives, etc. Taking the word in its most extended view, it is the world, but in the light we wish to impress in our book, is the smaller world of the changing, pleasant exchanges of each city or town in which our reader may chance to abide. She says here, a book will not fully supply the place of experience or friendly advice. Still, it may be made useful and carefully written from the experience of heads grown gray in society. With only, that's interesting how they describe things. Carefully written from the experience of heads grown gray in society. That's so colorful, instead of saying carefully written from the experience of old people. With only well authenticated rules, it will be a guide not to be despised by the young aspirant for favor in polite and refined circles. You may set it down as a rule that as you treat the world, so the world will treat you. Now, in today's mess that we're in socially and financially, and I don't go into the financial areas anymore, I don't go shopping at all, but the way you're treated by some of these stores and some of these people in business, that doesn't make much sense. It says you may set it down as a rule that as you treat the world, so the world will treat you. Of course, this was written by people in the free world at the time, and it was a truth that as you treated others in business, they would treat you. However, you do get some pretty bad people that don't care about the customer, and that's what I find going on out there today from what I've heard. Carry into circles of society a refined, polished manner and an amiable desire to please, and it will meet you with smiling grace and lead you forward pleasantly along desired paths. On the contrary, a rude manner, startling all the softness before you with cuts, carrying only the hard realities of life in your hand, you'll find society armed to meet you, showing only sharp corners and thorny places for your blundering footsteps. So here are the names of the chapters here. Conversation, politeness, table etiquette, etiquette in the street, etiquette for calling on others, dress, exercises, traveling, etiquette in church, parties, courtesy at home. That sounds interesting. I wonder, courtesy at home. I'm not sure. They've got it written in such a strange way that it's hard to tell whether it's the title above it or the title below it. But I wanted to mention something here. Courtesy at home. There are many men in this world who would be horror-struck if accused of the least breach of etiquette toward their friends and acquaintances, abroad, and yet who will at home utterly disregard the simplest rules of politeness, if such rules interfere with in the least with their own selfish gratification. They disregard the pure and holy ties which should make courtesy at home a pleasure as well as a duty. They forget that home has a sweet poetry of its own, created out of the simplest materials, yet haunting more or less the secret recesses of every human heart. It is divided into 1,000 separate poems, which should be full of individual interest, little quiet touches of feeling, and golden recollections, which in the heart of a truly noble man are interwoven with his very being. Common things are to him hallowed and made beautiful by the spell of memory and association. You know, there are sometimes people have spent so much time out in the commercial world, and then they come home and they start to treat the family and the home just like the workplace and the customers, with kind of a nonchalance and a brusqueness, and not an intimate bond between. You kind of break that bond between them. It's hard to describe, but it is very, very offensive. A family that has worked hard to be a family and has stayed together, and then someone comes home and wants to talk in a rude, brusque manner, as though they are somebody out there, because they're not. This is special. This is something else. And they talked about it in here. It says that he darkens the horizon of daily life, breaking tears or wild storms above their heads. The man who shows his contempt for these holy ties, is talking about the family, and associations by pulling off his mask of courtesy as soon as his foot passes his own threshold, is not really a gentleman, but a selfish tyrant, whose true qualities are not courtesy and politeness. So you see, they had that problem in those days too, didn't they? But a hypocritical affectation of them, assumed to obtain a footing in society. Avoid such men, even though you are one of the favored ones abroad who receive their gentle courtesy. You may rest assured that the heartless egotism, which makes them rude and selfish at home, will make their friendship but a name, if circumstances are ever put to the test. Above all, avoid their example. In what does the home circle consist? First, there are parents, who have watched over your infancy and childhood, and whom you are commanded by the highest power to honor. Then the brothers and sisters, the wife who has left her own home and all its tender ties for your sake, and the children who look to you for example, guidance, and instruction. Who else on the broad earth can lay the same claim to your gentleness and courtesy that they can? If you are rude at home, then is your politeness abroad a mere cloak to conceal a bad, selfish heart? The parents who have anxiously watched over your education have the first right to the fruits of it, and all the gentlemen should be exhorted to repay them for the care they have taken of you since your birth. All the rules of politeness, of generosity, of good nature, see, all those things, politeness is all they ask in return for the care they have given you. You owe to them a pure love, void of personal interest, which should prompt you to study all their tastes, their likes, and their aversions, in order to indulge the one and avoid the other. You owe them polite attention, deference to all their wishes, and compliance with their requests. You see, this is what, if you can find this book online and print it off and highlight some of these these are some of the things that are not taught even in some of the new homeschool manners books, is that these young people often, and I say it from my generation too because I saw it, was they get out in the world and they're working, and then when they come home they treat their parents like there's no thread of love or bonding between them, but they're just like a customer like everybody else, and that they are expected to be dutiful sons, that the relationship in the family is different. And this is what needs to be taught, because in our socialistic society, especially people who go to groups of people every day outside of their home in some way, whether it's work, whether it's college or school, they get the feeling that everybody out there is their friend and they're just like them. We're all family, you know, but it isn't true. The home is very different. An eminent writer, in speaking of a man's duties, says, "Do all in your power to render to your parents that they be comfortable and happy. If they are aged and infirm, be with them as often as you can, carry them tokens of your love, and show them that you feel a tender interest in their happiness. Be all to your parents which you would wish your children to be to you." That would be excellent. Now, ladies, I have to go. I've been talking for 40 minutes, and I hope that this will be good for you and that you will find some some use for it, and that you'll get a lot done while you're listening. So I will talk to you later, hopefully. So I'll see you next time. Bye.